Hi everyone, Kelly Mahler, occupational therapist, and it's a new year. And every year I try to reflect on what I learned in the past, which is so much. And we learned so much from our interoception communities. And then I take a minute to think about, what are my intentions? What are my goals for the upcoming year? And as I was digging deep, as I was really reflecting on this, it really became clear that three main intentions emerged for myself when it comes to interoception. So that intention number one is to stop labeling and get more curious. It has become so evident to me that labeling someone else's experience is deeply ingrained in my past, in my experience. And I do it from a place of good intention, but it really is very derailing or can be downright gaslighting to a person's experience in the world. So saying something like, oh my gosh, like that must have made you feel so tired, or gosh, yeah, that does sound really boring. So labeling someone else's experience is presuming that I know how they're feeling. And what interoception science is telling us is that many times when we assume to understand someone else's inner experience, we are dead wrong. And so by labeling what it is we think is happening with them, we are at risk of being wrong and gaslighting their experience, mislabeling their experience. And for many people, that can lead to a lot of inner confusion. Like, well, Kelly said I must have felt this way, but I didn't feel that way. So am I a wrong person for not feeling that way? Maybe my inner experience is not something to be trusted, and so forth. It can lead to this downward spiral of inner confusion. So rather than labeling, I'm trying to get more and more curious. And so saying something instead like, oh, I wonder how that made you feel, or what was that like for you, or I wonder what that was like for you. So instead of labeling what I think it was, giving them a chance to share if they want to or can, what that experience was like for them. And I love those I wonder statements because it's an I wonder without an expectation of response. If someone wants to share with me what their inner experience was all about, that's great. But if they don't, that's great too. Intention number two is, if you know my work, you know I am passionately against compliance-based approaches. And that is what intention number two is all about, is to continue advocating against compliance. If we're talking about interoception specifically, compliance completely destroys interoceptive awareness. It can chronically condition somebody to ignore what it is their body needs for regulation, for comfort, for safety, to ignore what their body is telling them that they need in an order to please another person, to meet somebody else's demand and get that reinforcer or get that approval of somebody else. And that is so damaging for many reasons, including to our interoceptive experience. So you will be hearing a lot more from us in terms of compliance and how do we get less compliance and more regulation. We need to be so much more focused on regulation, on encouraging people to listen to what their body needs and honoring that and following that, those efforts for sure. So finally, that intention number three is to continue to check myself and ensure that my expectations are aligned for a person's current capacity for regulation. Self-regulation is a huge buzzword. Self-regulation is something that my work is all about. But what becomes very evident is that sometimes we are putting so much emphasis on teaching or building self-regulation that it's at the expense of something else that is so desperately needed, and that's something called co-regulation. And that co-regulation is where we're relying on other people to help identify and meet our regulatory needs. And for so many of my clients, especially early on in the process where I'm first meeting them, they are in a place of needing a lot of high quality co-regulation. And they come to me with these IEP goals and therapy goals for like self-regulation. Like the student will independently seek out a break, or the student will independently get a sensory strategy. And those all require a high degree of interoceptive understanding. Like, you have to be able to notice and understand your bodily sensations in order to have reliable clues of when you need to take a break or when you need those sensory strategies. So we need to rewind our expectations, check our expectations. Are they fairly aligned with a person's current capacity for interoception and regulation? We need to, for many of our learners, shift back to a place of co-regulation where we're lovingly providing support in a way that's meaningful to them and their neurology. And a lot of times through that co-regulation and interaction with us, they learn a lot about their interoceptive needs. It also puts them in a place. A regulated body and brain is a body and brain that's ready for learning, including that interoception learning. So I'd love to hear what your goals and intentions are. Share them with us on social media. Until next time.